I am goal driven, but then there's sides of me that I'm like, I don't care. I could live in a van and be in the middle of nowhere and still be so content. And I don't need a big, beautiful home and all these like materialistic things to feel like I've made it or that I'm successful.
My name is Arman and welcome to Yes I Am podcast. In this episode, I got a chance to talk to Jade Webster, who is a creative thinker, a photographer, and the content creator for Oregon State University social media. I hope you all enjoyed this amazing episode with Jade Webster. How are you doing, Jade?
Hi, I'm good.
Fantastic.
How's everybody doing?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm doing pretty good. I'm glad that you said yes to Yes I Am podcast. We're going to have an amazing conversation. I always come here from a very open mind, and I leave the SM podcast very, very inspired. And I'm pretty sure your story will be inspiring a lot of our students here at OSU and anyone that will be watching this episode. So, Jade, we always start with a very simple question, which leads us to very interesting places and journeys. And that question is, Jade, what is your story?
Wow, okay. What's my story? Like the full, maybe like how I got into photography or just like...
Not necessarily photography. Like, what's your story?
Who is Jade? Okay.
Who is Jade?
So I grew up in a small-ish town. It's called Redding. It's in Northern California. Growing up, I was very involved in school and I was an athlete. I was a 3-sport athlete. So that really consumed my life. And I just really liked, community. I was a cheerleader. I was involved in a lot of like extracurriculars too. And so very involved. And then once I graduated high school, I went to a community college for 2 years. And that's when I picked up photography. I was always pretty creative, but that was kind of the first time that I kind of had that time freedom to pick up something new. And so I was a waitress at that time, living at home. And bought my first camera and just kind of started playing around with it and taking just some portraits of some friends and things like that. I was always really inspired by like Tumblr back in like the Tumblr days. And that was kind of why I bought my camera in the first place was to start creating more like aesthetically pleasing like photos other than just the pictures that I could take with my phone. As well as I got bit by the travel bug. Like I never really knew how much I wanted to travel until probably like right after I graduated high school. My eyes were open to this like, possibility that like, oh, you don't have to stay in your like small little bubble, like you can explore the world. And, so I was very inspired by travel. And so that was another big reason why I wanted to buy a camera as well. Just graduated with my associate's degree from there and then moved to Bend, Oregon for about a year. Just taking a gap year because I needed to gain in-state tuition to go to OSU or whatever college I ended up going to, but I ended up going to Oregon State. Now I've been in Corvallis for almost 2 years. I am a senior standing, but I'm going to have to take a 5th year because I changed my major. That's kind of who I am in a very short explanation.
Yeah, Jade, you said some days you're lesser focused, some days you're a wild child, and some days you're a fragile mess. There's also from your Twitter. I want to know about... Yeah, I want to know about all 3 of them.
Yeah. Wow, that was a tweet from like a really long time ago, but it's still so relevant.
Yeah.
Some days I feel so I feel so put together. I feel so like, I got my stuff together. I'm checking off my task list. Like, I don't know what I would do without this thing, but it's my like planner and my bullet journal, but I just dump everything in my brain into this thing. And, there's days that I feel very inspired and that like I have it all figured out. And then there's days where I'm like, I want to run away. I want to go off the grid. I don't want anyone to know where I'm at. And that's that wild child like side of me of like, I just don't want to conform to societal norms anymore. Like, I don't want to go into corporate America. I want to like pave my own path. And I've had to figure out how to balance those two sides of me because they're both very prevalent in how I choose to live my life. You know, I want to be successful and I am goal driven, but then there's sides of me that I'm like, I don't care. I could live in a van and be in the middle of nowhere and still be so content. And I don't need a big, beautiful home and all these like materialistic things to feel like I've made it or that I'm successful. But yeah, that's kind of where that comes from, I think.
Where does that start? Like, does it start from your family? They kind of this sense of, you know, not, I call it not being ordinary, you know, like kind of living this life of like, that's not normal. And I love that, you know, when you're not living at like a daily basis life of, you know, breakfast, work, lunch, dinner, hanging out with family, and the next day, the same day. Where does this kind of mindset that you have right now come from? Does it come from your back in family? Where does it come from?
You know, I'm not totally sure. So my dad's an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
And so I think that that's where I get that entrepreneurial brain of like, I want to figure out how to create success on my own and not have to worry about anybody else like employing me. Not to say I want to be like a freelancer forever, because I definitely want to have, you know, the stability, but I think that has a lot to do with it. My travel, like the drive to travel has been in my family for a very long time. Like my great grandmother, she's 96 years old and she has traveled the world. Wow. Like this woman lived in a RV with her husband for like 30 years. Wow. Just traveling around, and she was never home. They'd come home for Christmas and that was about it. And she's still alive, still kicking, like still super funny. And I think it's just kind of in my blood maybe. And like growing up, I would do a lot of RV trips with my grandmother. Yeah. That was my great grandmother that I was talking about. Yeah. But yeah, I think that, and then also just the, you know, being on the internet and having the accessibility to see what other people are doing and kind of gaining inspiration of like, you know, we don't have to live this like cookie cutter, like paved road for us. Like we can really just make our realities what we want it to be. I think that has a lot to do with it too. I get really claustrophobic doing the same thing all the time. And like, I have this like internal like drive almost when I'm feeling that way to be like, oh my gosh, I need change. I need to go somewhere. I need to do something else because what I'm doing right now isn't working. And I think a lot of that is just like intuition and like being in tune with that and rolling with it.
You know, I'm very similar, and I think for me is I think it's called ADHD. That
a little bit of that too.
Yeah, and like my someone told me I have an ADHD, and I was like, what is ADHD? And I looked it up, and it said more than 300% of entrepreneurs have ADHD. You know, they keep like looking at other stuff, you know, doing so many stuff at the same time. And yeah, you know, what was the role of your dad? You know, because your dad, you said, was entrepreneur. Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't always easy, for sure. Yeah. A lot of my childhood, I have 2 younger siblings. Yeah. And like I said, I was a 3-sport athlete. So my mom was like super mom of dragging me to tournaments every weekend or game practices or picking me up. And I was also very social little butterfly. So I wanted to be at friends' houses on the weekends if I wasn't at a tournament and like all of those things. And she really, like looking back on it, I think at the time, obviously I was very appreciative, but you don't really realize how much work that actually is. And so she was a very big like role model in that sense. But then my dad, he worked a lot to provide for us. And a lot of times he was working 2 jobs because you can't support a family of 5 on your new business venture. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But, you know, he was able to branch off and that be his sole income for a very, very long time. And so that was very inspiring to see that hustle and see that grind. And I think it was instilled in me without even knowing it, if that makes sense. Like, I, at the time growing up, I might have felt resentful towards him, like resentment towards him not being like at my games all the time.
Yeah.
But I always knew like Dad's working, like he's just, that's what he's got to do, you know? So, I mean, he was a present father for sure. But yeah, no, I definitely think the hard work, just seeing it was dumped into me. And now I definitely am very grateful for that.
Yeah, having an entrepreneur that I think is very inspiring. At the same time, you're like, oh, he's never there. You know, like he's working so hard. The other day I was talking to one of my friends, and she was telling me that her dad and for their family to build their business, because her dad was entrepreneur too. They even had to. I think they had to live in a car for a while, you know. Yeah, you know, it all did not started, you know, in a gigantic house, you know. It all took time, you know, and that's I think life an entrepreneurs usually start like with nothing. Like usually, like the first couple years is $0, and then it keeps gradually going up.
Yeah. You normally don't even really gain a profit from your business venture for the first like 2-3 years.
Yeah.
Really, a lot of it is like put back into your business. So, yeah, absolutely. I mean, entrepreneurs aren't entrepreneurs because it's easy. Like, that's absolutely not the case.
No.
A lot of the time, like you do gain some freedom, and there's obviously positives to it.
Yeah.
But there's also a lot of, you know, hard work and sleepless nights and because you're always working. You know, you carry that weight on your shoulders, especially once you start bringing in employees. It's like, because he has employees now, it's like it's not just you anymore. It's not just your well-being, it's these people's well-being and their families, and you know, being a good boss and all of those things. So yeah, absolutely, he's been a very big inspiration to me for sure.
That's amazing. And let me ask you this question. I learned in this book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, to always begin with the end in mind. And this question is inspired by that concept. So, Jade, let's do a quick imagination.
Okay.
Let's imagine today your 80th birthday. Your 80th birthday. And you going out to buy some groceries, coming back home, and you see so many cars parked by your home, and you go inside your house and you're surprised for your birthday. And your family, your loved ones, your kids, everyone that you love are there to surprise you. As a gift, for your 80th birthday, you're receiving a letter. And this letter, all these people that love you are writing you to let you know what you mean to them, what inspiration you have been in their lives, and what symbol and what role you have played in people's lives, in your loved ones. Jade, what do you want this letter to say?
Wow. You know, I think about this kind of stuff a lot, which is very interesting that you bring it up. Because I've always said, back to kind of things that inspire me and like how I started. One of my biggest fears in life is to be 80 years old, sitting on my porch and think about my life and kind of going over all of the chapters and phases and being like, wow, I wish I would have. I wish I would have done this. I wish I would have done that. And that's inevitably, like, we are all going to have regrets of things that we didn't do. But like, one of my biggest goals in life is to never like pass up an opportunity to experience life to like its fullest ability. And so I guess what I would want that to say is that, she inspired us to explore. She pushed us to really live in the moment and like experience life to the fullest, as cheesy as that sounds, but to be our authentic selves. And yeah, that's hard. That's a really hard question. But that she was a genuine person, and she cared deeply about other people and the growth of other people and their goals. And, I just want my time on this planet to be impactful. And I think a lot of people think that, but, I've, in the past few years, I've kind of done like some personal development and some like self-reflection of just like, what is my purpose? And I think that that's something that's going to evolve as we grow up and have different experiences. But I guess at that age, I just really hope that my time has been used to inspire other people to be genuine and good people and to do good for our planet too. Like, I've really dove into the sustainability lifestyle. And obviously with the pandemic, it's been really hard because single-use plastic and things like that is now you can't bring your own Tupperware, you can't bring your own cups, you can't do those things because you're touching it and then you're giving it to other people. But to inspire people to live thoughtfully for themselves, but also for people to come too. That was kind of all over the place, but that was just a really long train of thought that
Jade, when you talk when you talked about it, and from now on whatever you have said so far, it all shows skills and things an entrepreneur has, someone that's driven, and you talked about purpose, and that's very important because that's another thing that at Yes I Am we try to let people know. You will, in your life, hopefully one day you will figure out what is your why or what your purpose is.
Yeah.
It's better to not be when you're 50. Because because that day that you really figure it out, you look at beyond your shoulder and see how many opportunities you have missed. And how can you live your life to the fullest, but you never start thinking about what is your purpose is, or what your calling is, what your gift is. And we all have one, and this purpose and this calling exists within our stories. I learned from Simon Sinek that if you want to really figure out your why and your purpose, share your story with someone and ask them to find a pattern within your story, because there are specific patterns within our stories that are why exists within those patterns. And it's very interesting that I asked my mentor, when do I know I found my why? And my mentor told me, you just know it.
Yeah.
You just know it. The day that, when you found your why, you're not going to ask yourself, is it it? You just know it is.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think a lot of people find that within their careers. A lot of people find that with building a family and having children. And I don't think I've found my why quite yet, but I think that I am on the right path.
Yeah.
Of finding my why and being content with the life that I chose to pave out, because I think of life as there's just so many doors.
Yeah.
And there's so many pathways that if you open this door, you could go down this completely down this different little rabbit hole,
Yeah.
And you might be presented with an opportunity that you didn't even know that you needed to grow as a person and also in your career, So I try and think about that a lot when I'm presented with opportunities. Is you never know who's going to see this, who's going to be inspired by it, and who it can help. And then also you never know who's going to see it and want to get to know you. And then that's a whole new, energy and a whole new person in your life that could open up experiences and all those things. But yeah, that's very interesting that you asked me that. Wow. That made me really think really hard.
I'm glad. That's actually one of the reasons I ask, because it's great to always think about what do you want to be then, so you can start building it from now.
Yeah.
That's the goal.
Yeah, that way your energy is just like streamlined into a bigger goal.
Yeah.
Really.
Jade, do you see yourself as an optimistic person?
Yeah, I'm pretty optimistic. I try and be, at least. There's days where obviously we are down and life just is really heavy. But for the most part, I'm very optimistic that if you carry a positive energy, that good things will come to you. Like that you'll be like a positive, magnet.
Yeah.
And so also too, if you carry that positive energy, you're more likely to see the positives in even negative scenarios. And that's something that I try and do a lot. I kind of not related, but kind of related. I got my car broken into a couple weeks ago, about a month ago or so. And they stole a bunch of stuff out of my car because it was in Portland. And I go there a lot to go visit my boyfriend. And I had like 4 jackets that are like my favorite jackets. And I don't have a lot of jackets. Like I just got rebought one because I was like, dang, that sucks. We're still kind of in the winter and it's still kind of cold here. And I was just like, it sucked, but it wasn't like, it was kind of a day ruiner, but also I was just kind of like, well, the homeless population in Portland is absolutely terrible. And I was like, well, hopefully they just needed it more than I did.
Wow.
And my boyfriend was like, I don't know how you think like that. And I was like, I just don't. It happened. So there's literally nothing I can do about it. And like, yes, it's upsetting, but having it completely ruin my day, then there's just no point. Like, so in a way, yeah, I'm pretty optimistic. I'm also pretty optimistic just about like, if you believe that you can achieve something, then you absolutely will. Like if you don't accept that, like, if you don't, I don't know what I'm trying to say. Yeah. But you can't accept like no for an answer almost. Like you just have to keep going.
Yeah.
And trying. Yeah.
Especially if you know your purpose, when you know you're in the right track, then you just gotta fight for it, because you definitely will fail.
Oh, absolutely.
And you said, there are some days that you're also you have low moments. How do you deal with those? What do you do then?
I really lean into like physical movement, fresh air, exercise, go to the gym, or I'll go on a hike, try and get out in fresh air with like my thoughts while also moving my body. I find that I really lean into that when I'm feeling low or confused. Yeah, that's my biggest piece. And I'm a pretty healthy person, so I try and just, making sure that I'm drinking a lot of water, eating a nutritious meal, fueling my body with all of the good things, so that way, hopefully it kind of rolls up in there,
I'm pretty sure, Jade, you have failed in your journey. Tell us about them.
Failed in my journey? What do you mean? In what journey?
In your journey so far, it could be... I'm actually going to... Let me ask you this question, actually. What has been the biggest challenge that you have faced in your life so far? In terms of your career, or it could be in terms of your relationship, your life. What has it been? And the follow-up question, how did you overcome it? What did you learn from it?
The biggest challenge in my life, not comparing myself to other people. I find, one, I have imposter syndrome, which I think all creatives do. That constant feeling like you're not enough, or that you're not credible. And there's going to be those days no matter what in any career, but especially in a creative career, that you look at your work and you're like, oh my gosh, I don't even know why anyone would ever follow me or hire me, you know? But then there's also days where, you feel like you're figuring it out and you're on the right path. But that's been a huge, step to step over, a huge challenge to overcome. And I think that I've really overcame those things because just personal development and realizing that like I am who I am and I'm in my own personal journey right now, and there's no reason to compare myself to someone else's chapter 10 when I might only be in my chapter 5, so that you can gain inspiration from other people's lives or other people's work and take that and make it your own, but that you shouldn't compare yourself to them because you're not them. There's no reason that you should try and be them because you never will be. And everyone's, experience is going to be different. Everyone's, everyone's different. So, yeah, I think that that's probably the biggest thing that I've had to challenge. That's been pretty challenging. Is knowing like my self-worth, I guess.
Or I like to put it this way: you accepted who you are. Is that right?
Yeah. I feel like that was something that I really leaned into like this past year. I would say like I stopped really even like looking at other people's work that much, and more looking at my own and how I could morph and change and grow instead of looking at other people's and comparing. Yeah.
It's called infinite mindset. Infinite mindset is when you're in a game that has no sets of rules, and you're not going to compete with anyone. Like a basketball game, a football game is a finite game. But life is infinite. You are only in this competition with yourself. Because the rules or the ways that you compare yourself with other person will be definitely different than the way that they see themselves and they see you. Because we all are having different type of measures of comparison and measures of comparing each other. So if there are no set rules, we are not competing against each other.
Yeah, absolutely.
Jade, do you overthink?
Yeah, I am like a chronic overthinker.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I feel like I play out all of these different scenarios in my head about what my life could look like, and what I hope it will look like. And, I overthink about, am I working hard enough? Yeah. Like, am I making the right connections? Am I even where I'm supposed to be right now? Or am I supposed to be across the country? Kind of things like that. I overthink a lot about my future and how I hope that when I'm 80 years old and I'm sitting on my porch watching my grandchildren play in my yard, that I'm not disappointed with my life and with my life choices. But yeah, I'm definitely an overthinker for sure.
Well, do you enjoy overthinking?
Sometimes, but sometimes it's like a cause of depression and anxiety, and sometimes if you overthink things, yes, negative can come out of it, but also you can have these like really profound thoughts that you may have never thought of if you didn't take the time to like sit with those feelings and with those thoughts. So
I think what you're talking about is more of that your creativity type of mindset. That's not necessarily overthinking. when you say talk about, because you say like you kind of think about, okay, what should they do, how that's gonna look like. When I think about overthinking, I think about jumping into your thoughts, going and going, and overthinking usually I feel like ends in negativity.
Sometimes it does.
Yeah,
Yeah.
what I'm hearing from you have more of a design thinking.
Yeah.
Design thinking. And the
Yeah,
thing about,
definitely. Well, also that's like my major too. So
yeah.
I'm a design and innovation management major. So
Yeah.
yeah. So, but yeah, I mean that definitely has something to do with the school I'm in, but also yeah, just being a creative and being a human too. Like we're definitely overthinkers.
Yeah. I met a couple people. One of them Cyan that reached out to you, I think. That also are like creative and designer, and I feel like the world needs more people like you and
Oh,
Cyan, because we need more designers, more creative people, because any improvement comes out of creativity. If
yeah,
you're not trying to, if you're not creative, you're just going to stay in this straight line.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jade, I want to know about all of the travels that you have you travel to, all the travels that you have done.
Yeah.
First of all, tell us why do you, what is it about traveling that you love? And what have you learned from traveling in so many different places?
Okay. So I love to travel because I just love to see other landscapes, experience other cultures, just experience to put myself sometimes in an uncomfortable situation
Yeah.
to grow from that. That's probably one of the biggest things I've learned from travel is that stuff's gonna go wrong. You are going to miss flights.
Yeah.
You are going to lose things along the way. Like you might have an itinerary and it's never gonna go to plan. I was in Canada camping out of a car. We were 3 hours into the mountains from the nearest city where we rented the car. And this car, we had this whole itinerary of because I was traveling through Banff and we had flown into Alberta.
Yeah.
And rented this car to camp out of. And yeah, we were in the middle of nowhere and this car started blowing up, exploding. Not actually, but it was so many things were going wrong with it. And it was literally day 3 of the trip. We had just gotten there.
Wow.
And we had to drive all the way back to the city to go get a different car. And that's a whole crazy story, insane story. But long story short is we had to drive all the way back into Alberta to go get it. And it was insane. But I just love seeing new things and experiencing new places. And, I think photography definitely has opened that eye for me of the drive has always just been to experience. I don't go there with the mindset of I want to get these banger photos. That's not really why, but it is a factor of I want to go to these beautiful scenic places because I do want to go photograph them. And I just think it's a lot of fun.
I feel like the traveling is the journey and the photo is the reward of that journey.
It is. Yeah,
right?
Absolutely. I think there's been some stigma or people that have scrutinized photographers as you go and you just go there to go get content and you don't really live and experience it. And I try and do my best to get there, take the photos that I want to take, be content, and then sit and really take it in and enjoy it and do both, and I run with some photographers that, they are content driven. They are there to get photos and that is it. Which I like to kind of slow down and sometimes, I might miss out on a shot, but that's okay, But I think the drive to travel too is And to photograph my travels is to look back on them, you know, when I am old, and kind of relive all of those experiences over again in that like single snapshot. Yeah, even now, like I'll look back on some of my travel pictures and I will remember that whole day and like what led up to that day, and like how I was feeling at that time. When I travel, I keep a journal and I'll journal every day.
Really?
And
Wow.
definitely recommend doing that, because there's little details even in a like 7-day trip that in even a month or two you're gonna forget. And so it's fun to look back and remember what you're feeling, because I think even in pictures, like you'll look at them and you might forget little details, and I like remembering those little details.
Yeah, traveling is fun. I have not had the opportunity to travel a lot, but it's something that at some point of my life I just want to just like spend 6 months of my life just travel.
Yeah, I was bummed. Obviously, the pandemic ruined a lot of plans for a lot of people, but I really want to study abroad. That was a huge goal of mine, was to study abroad, and that's not going to happen. But another big goal is to like teach English after I graduate with my bachelor's in a different country. So I'm hoping by the time that I'm graduated next year, that the year after I'll be able to do that, because that would be a lot of fun, and I think it would be very fulfilling too. But I mean, I really haven't traveled like that much in retrospect of other people, you know? So, and everything's been self-funded, and I just, you know, I have a normal savings account that's called adulting savings account, and then I have my travel savings account, and I have to, you know, choose sometimes where the money goes.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta save it to use it, right? You know, you're not saving it forever.
Yeah, exactly. Sometimes it's hard, but like on that, like, you know, flight, buying that flight, and I'm like, oof. Like when I went to Thailand, that was a lot of fun. But we were there for almost a month, and it's a cheap country to travel through for sure.
Yeah.
But I would love to do Europe. Like a huge goal is to do the Swiss Alps. Like I want to go to Peru really bad.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, so many places. The world's massive.
It
So
is.
a lot of places to see, and hopefully a lot of life to do it. So.
No, yeah, I always say this. You know, what is I said this about people. I said that what is unique about each person is not their necessarily laughter or what they do. It's about their story. You know, it's about who they really are. And traveling is all about that too. You know, it's all about figuring out what's going on in different places and what the culture is. How do people live, and you know what's happening there. You know, so yeah, it's amazing. I'm going to ask you this, but I have the answer already. Are you relatable?
I hope so. I try to be.
Yeah.
I try to be as relatable as I can be. You know, I don't come from a very like glamorous background, and so I think it's pretty relatable. I'm self-made, you know, like I first generation college student, like so the grind I hope is pretty relatable as well as like the content. Like I know there's a lot of like new content creators and that's coming to light as well over the years. You know, I've been in it for 5 years now, and I'm starting to gain a little like photo crew in Portland, and it's a lot of fun meeting new people and hearing their stories. And
it is.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. I love the community, and I think that that's part of what's so amazing is building a community around it and around this like drive to just like create and explore and be creative. And I just think it's really cool.
Yeah, Jade, that's why I'm doing this podcast. That's even out of this podcast, I just tell people, hey, do you want to meet up? I want to have a conversation with you. And I just want to hear their stories, and I share my story, and it's just amazing because each person it's very interesting. From all the stories that I have heard so far, they're all different and they're all unique, but they're all relatable.
Yeah.
All of them have went through a dark place that like they had no what the heck is happening, you know. one thing that was relatable between all of them, none of them had a perfect life. They all had their life with ups and downs. You know, their life has ups and downs. Some of them, it took them a longer time to go from a low moment to up, but they all the what you call the chart was like this, you know, up and down. And that's the one of the main things that everyone can relate to. And this one concept of the life is not the perfect line, is on the straight line up. If we learn this concept, anyone, that's one of the main reasons we're doing this podcast. If anyone noticed that everyone faces challenges and has ups and downs, it would be easier for us to go through them. You know, because if we can relate to one another and see someone else went through it, it will make it easier for us to also overcome it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because we all feel lonely a lot. You know, people feel lonely about, and especially in the hard situations, we all feel very lonely. But if we feel like we are not lonely, there is someone, even with your in your street, that can relate to you, in your like household that can relate to you, that solves so many problems.
Yeah.
Jade, we always end this podcast with, what is the biggest lesson that Jade have learned so far?
The biggest lesson that Jade has learned so far is to, I don't want to say that comparison kills creativity, because I kind of already touched on comparison. But that's definitely been a huge hurdle that I've had to face. In a lot of different aspects of my life. But also just to, like, you know, work hard and to really, like, try and live an authentic life and touch it, like, you know, check in on yourself and making sure that, you know, what you're doing and what you stand for is aligned. And people morph and people change all the time, and that's okay. What you believed and what your goals were 4 years ago may not be your goals now, and that's totally okay. And I think just checking in on yourself and making sure that, like, it's so important that Jade's okay first before being able to be there for anybody else. I think that's just what I've learned, like, as far as, like, in life, and then also in my career too, I guess.
You nailed it. You cannot help anyone till you help yourself first. You know, like, a lot of people tell me that, like, hey, I want to help people, and we all want to be this angel for everyone, but at the same time, do we have it together with ourselves yet? Do we love ourselves first yet? You know, because you're first gonna accept who you are and love yourself, and then you can help anyone else and love anyone else.
Yeah, absolutely.
Jade, we call ourselves Yes I Am because we believe you can put anything in front of it and be that person. What would Jade put in front of Yes I Am? Yes I Am what?
Yes, I am strong.
Amazing. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jade, for saying yes to Yes I Am podcast. It's been amazing and lovely talking to you. I feel very inspired. And again, these podcasts that we record here at Yes I Am have one main reason, and that one reason is we are all relatable, and we want to put this out there. We're all relatable. We are all relatable. Thank you, everyone, for watching this episode. Thank you, Jade, again. And as always, yes I am.